Hi there, folks. Welcome back to the WP-Tonic Wednesday interview show. We've had a little bit of a Christmas New Year break, but we're revigored and ready to come back. This is episode 255. We've got a great guest, which I'm going to let my co-host introduce. But before I introduce my co-host and then she can introduce our guest, I'm going to quickly talk about our sponsor. And our sponsor is Kinsta Hosting. And I've been raving about it. I'm going to rave again. Basically, we've been with them for about 3 months. They're hosting the WP-Tonic website. Brian Jackson, which is their marketing guru at Kinsta, is a personal friend of mine. And they decided to become our sponsor, and I was looking for a new host. So it was meant to be, folks. And I've been delighted with their service. They migrated the WP-Tonic website, and it just went so smoothly. Their staff are so helpful, and it's just great value. So if you're looking for a real specialist WordPress hosting company, go to the show notes or go to the WP-Tonic website in general. There's a load of banners and links to Kinsta's. They are referral links, I want to point out, so you'll be helping the show as well if you use one of those. And go up and join for yourself or join for your clients, and you're just going to have a fantastic experience. Now I'm going to let my co-host Kim introduce yourself. Kim.
Hey everybody, it's Kim Shivler. I am a business and technology and communications instructor and instructional design consultant. You can find me at kimshivler.com or tweet to me at Kim Shivler. I'll be tweeting some during our event here because we are live on Facebook.
We certainly are. And why don't you introduce our guest, and let's go straight into the interview, Kim.
Excellent. I would love to. I'm really excited about today's guest. We are interviewing Brian Massey of ConversionSciences.com. He is a conversion scientist. And we're going to dig into what that means with Brian. But from an overview, it is helping you that when you get people to your website, having them do what you want them to do. Because we know that that's the critical part. If all the traffic's coming, but they're not doing anything, you're just paying extra for bandwidth. So that's what we're going to be talking to Brian about today. Brian, say hello, and if there's anything else you'd like to throw in about yourself, please let us know.
Hello, and if there's anything you'd like to throw in about yourself, I'm sorry, I'm in literal mode today.
Good night, Gracie.
That was a lovely introduction. I don't know what else I would add in.
All right, then let's go ahead and get started because I'm excited to learn about conversions. So people worry a lot about SEO, getting the people to their website. And yet once they get there, what happens? And that's where you come in. Mm-hmm. Correct? So tell us a little bit about what that means as you start your strategy. Okay, we most people kind of know SEO strategies. We know we want to drive traffic to our site. Now they get there. What's the first thing you would start with them on to make sure that they're getting whatever they need?
Well, it is, so the question is, you say we all know that we want search traffic. We want good SEO, great content, we want search traffic. And when you ask someone why, they usually get stuck on, well, so we get more traffic. But why? So that we get more traffic. Why did you put up a website? Oh, we did that so that we could move the business forward. Well, what does that look like? That looks like us building a list so we can continue to market through email. That looks like generating leads that we can pass to our salespeople so that they can call and close people. That looks like selling things online if I'm running an e-commerce WordPress site. And when you start talking about that, you realize that nobody puts up a website to get search optimization traffic. They put up a website to move the business forward, to start relationships with people online. And then search optimization becomes a tactic for getting more people to start those conversations. So I, of course, am biased because I'm in the conversion optimization game, and but I think they've got it backwards. I think starting this whole we're going to generate eyeballs and see what happens is not going to work for anyone except a well-funded unicorn in Silicon Valley. Those of us on WordPress need to start with what do we need people to do? Now, I built my business on WordPress. We've been doing ConversionSciences was founded in 2007, and it was essentially me putting on a lab coat, putting up a WordPress site, and starting to teach the marketplace about the arts, the tools, the vocabulary, the disciplines around conversion optimization. Basically understanding what people want, understanding what you're not giving them that's causing them to go away to your competitors, and understanding how you can try different things until you find the things that deliver what they want. In all of that time, we have never had outbound sales. It's all been inbound. So I don't want to discount the value of the content, because it was very important early on when no one knew what conversion optimization was and didn't realize that it was the first thing they should think of. It was the first thing they thought of. They just didn't call it that. Up until now, where there's a constant stream of folks that understand the importance and are giving it priority in marketing. So the content is important. The search optimization is only important when you've got your conversion optimization game down. I tell people not to build out their social media strategy until they get good at getting people from social media back to their site. And it's the same with search optimization. Both conversion and search optimization are long pole, so it takes a while to improve them. And so there's no reason you can't do both at the same time, because you do need that traffic if you want to start doing some more sophisticated things like testing. So did I answer your question?
Yes, that's a great answer. And it actually leads me to my next one, because I like that you mentioned it is a long game. Mm-hmm. And there are different things to look at, because just like with SEO, which a lot of times I hear people throw around little strategy techniques that really aren't getting to the full picture. Mm-hmm. I hear the same thing with conversion. I hear people on podcasts announcing that it's as simple as, pretty much making sure you've got red buttons and things like that. Is that oversimplification? And if it is, how actually should I get started instead of looking at some of those tips I'm hearing?
Yeah, well, so conversion optimization is important now, and so all the agencies are adding it to their websites and saying that they do it, and they believe that conversion optimization is good design. If I'm good at designing landing pages, then I'm going to have high conversion rates for my ad campaigns and my search engine optimization landing pages and all of those things. And it's not. It's more fundamental than that. It is about understanding your visitors, which is marketing kindergarten, not even marketing 101. It is marketing kindergarten. I have to have some idea of my audience, my customers, my potential customers and prospects, and before I can do anything intelligent. And conversion optimization is about understanding that at a product level, but also at a psychological level. It is about understanding the things we do that we don't know why we're doing them. But we'll always make up a reason, right? So those folks that are talking about conversion, great. They're expanding the market. They're making more people aware of the importance of it. If you're not, my job in 2018, and I'm happy to kick off my year this year, is to turn you, the listener, into a scientist. I'm sorry, but this is just going to have to happen, and you are going to have a ball with this. If you don't consider yourself mathy, you're going to be just fine. If you got into marketing because you love the human communication piece of it, you're going to be just fine. If you got into it because you love to write and teach and to motivate people, you're going to be just fine as a scientist. You don't have to go in the basement and look at screens for hours at a time. You've got to get good at two things. Number one, asking questions, And number two, understanding how you can measure the answer to those questions. And that's all conversion optimization is. We have ideas for red button. You mentioned the red button before. The red buttons make everything better, right? That's an idea. We don't throw that away, even though I know the answer already because I've been doing this a long time. We say, "What is there a way that we can try this and collect some data? It's digital. We can watch people interact on our website. Google Analytics is an amazing tool, and it's free. And yes, even you liberal arts majors can get into Google Analytics. I promise you can. So this is my challenge: is making people, giving people a little bit of confidence, getting them those first wins, and then having them embrace science. I'll send you a lab coat. I'll send you a beaker mug for your coffee, whatever it takes for you to remind yourself that you are a scientist. And if we have time, I'll tell you a story that will convince you already are a scientist. But does that answer your question?
It does. And I'm glad you brought up the scientist because you do a good job of explaining to us why we're already scientists, even those of us who think we are, as you mentioned, mathematically challenged, which I am. You know, people know my story. I got into computers because I found out I could take programming instead of calculus. And that's how I came here. So I would love to hear the story of why we're already scientists, because I think it's a good conversion in that way for people to understand.
So I love to tell a story. And the premise is that if a 14-year-old can be a behavioral scientist, anybody can be a behavioral scientist. So my son, when he was 14 years old, built his first computer. And he was spending his own money. He was way into several digital communities, digital games. It was the new mall. Those of you that have teenagers know that the online worlds are the new malls, at least for boys and girls as well. So if he didn't design and build his computer right, he was going to be stuck with it for 2 or 3 years with a suboptimal gaming platform for everything. It was, all of his socials as well as gaming joy. He had picked everything out and had narrowed things down, and there was one component left. It was the motherboard. The motherboard is the main board that everything plugs into, and there were two that he was interested in. They had the same features. They had the features he needed, and they were the same price. One of them was 5-star rated, and one of them was 4-star rated. So if we weren't already behavioral scientists, if it wasn't already wired, we would say 4 stars is not as good as 5-star. So you buy the 5-star, right? But even at the tender age of 14, he was smart enough to go and look at how many reviews were driving those ratings. And as it turns out, the 5-star review motherboard had 5 reviews. The 4-star reviewed motherboard had 250 reviews. So he knew at the age of 14 that sample size was important. Statisticians call that little n. It's the sample size that you're going to be using to predict how things are going to behave in a broader sample size, which, him buying the motherboard, he wanted to predict that he would buy the best one. And what he was doing, even though he didn't use any of these terms, is calculating the error range. So sample size of 5 has a really large error range. That 5-star motherboard could just as easily be a 1-star motherboard or a 10-star motherboard if it went up that high. Whereas the 4-star motherboard, we knew it was going to be 4-star, maybe 3-star. It might even be 5-star, but the range of error, the range of confidence was smaller. So we were more confident in 4 stars than we ever would be in 5 stars. And he chose the 4-star motherboard. And I didn't have to prompt him teaching that, dad with the lab coat. And none of you is sitting there scratching your head going, is that really the way it works? Because every time you go on Facebook to see how many people have liked your last post or commented on it or shared it, you're using behavioral science to shape your next decisions. The New York Times bestseller list, the Rotten Tomatoes freshness score, using the behaviors of other people to make decisions in your life is something that we all do. And this is what conversion optimization is. All we're doing is watching the behaviors of people on our WordPress sites, understanding which of our changes is improving things for them, and they're voting with their wallets or they're voting with their contact information. And the things that aren't, we stop doing them. The things that are, we keep doing them. How easy could that be? Congratulations, everybody, you're a scientist.
I love that. And we don't have to learn all the fancy terms to be a scientist. So what happens, though, if I'm someone and I don't have the good traffic to my site yet? Because it takes some traffic to truly do a test, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Where would you tell me to focus while I'm trying to build up that traffic? What's the one thing I can do while I'm building the traffic that's going to give me a little bit of conversion bang for my buck?
Sure. So there are really two kinds of conversion optimization. There's pre-launch optimization, which is all the things you can do to make your landing pages, or in the case of WordPress, since so many of us are using it as a content engine, we really need to think of our content pages, our blog content pages, as landing pages. They're search optimized landing pages, which means that they have two jobs to do, and I'll go into that in just a minute. But what we can optimize before we launch a piece of content, an ad campaign, an email campaign, and we can optimize after we launch. And there are some things happening in the marketplace that make the tools for instance, I can, let's say that I'm running a piece of content and I'm wondering which headline, I've got 5 headlines that I'm wondering which one of those is going to be best. I can actually go online and bring 10 people to look at each one of those headlines and tell me a score of whether or not they would read that content. And that is small sample size. It's 10 per experience, but I will get some feedback on that will help me choose that one from other humans, as opposed to just me picking one. What's the sample size there? Sample size 1. So we can grow our sample size from 1 to 10. You can buy 25. You go online to a tool like Usability Hub or Helio, and for $2 a person, you can say, here is what I'm trying to test. They come, they look, they answer your questions, and everything gets better as a result. So that's a very simple way of bringing people to your creative and seeing which of your creative choices is most likely to win. Then you roll that out, and you have the post-launch process in which you get to look at your analytics. So you're seeing things like how long when people come to that page, how long do they stay? Is it above or below the average for the rest of the site? Are they looking at other pages as a result? And most importantly, is it driving them to click, yes, here's my email address and name, I want to take that lead magnet, or yes, I want to subscribe for more of this content so I get it in my inbox. Again, we haven't done anything sciencey here, but we are actively working to give our visitors what they want on a campaign by campaign basis. If you want to apply that to something like your site-wide navigation, what should be on my menus for my site-wide navigation? Come up with some ideas and then put this in front of some panels and ask them to complete a task. Say, what would you click on if you wanted to find information on X? See how many of them get it right. And that will tell you which of your navigation schemes is most likely to win. You launch it, and then you can use a tool called Hotjar, which is very inexpensive, that will show you where people are clicking on any of your pages. There are a number of things that we can go into. And I go into these in the trainings that I do online. So if anybody's interested in those things, I think you guys can share some of the details of that.
That's great. I think we're going to go for our break, folks. When we come back, we're going to learn more about page optimization from the professor. We'll be back soon. We're coming back. We've been delving a lot with Brian, the professor, about page optimization. Do you want to wrap up with a question, Kim, and then maybe then throw it to me? I was getting my words jumbled there.
Yes, I have one more, and then I will throw it to you. So Brian, you teach this, and we're going to talk a little more at the end about an upcoming class I'm excited about you've got. You also work with companies and major brands, helping them do this. You actually have services to do this also.
Mm-hmm.
In your years, since you started this several years ago, and you've been doing this, what was one thing that really surprised you in a project, either your own or something else, that it was a change you made, you weren't thinking, that was actually very impactful?
I think probably my favorite story is this, and again, to those of you that I'm trying to bring into this science world, I want to make this point. The science and the data gives you a safety net to be more creative. And as an example of that, we do a lot of work in the addiction treatment center space. We're optimizing on the web for phone calls, actually. And we consider it very important because you can save families, you can save lives. Imagine somebody finally being able to kick an addiction that has dogged them and their family for years. We consider it pretty important. We had a landing page that was performing well, but it had a very simple headline. We can help, call, and the phone number. For those of you that are optimizing for phone calls, put the phone number in the headline. You'll get a nice bump in phone calls. Our hypothesis was if we were more emotional, that we would get more people to call, that they would feel more comfortable calling rather than just that. So we tested a couple of headlines and narrowed it down to two. One was speak to a compassionate rehab specialist, call, and are you ready to start healing, call. And these are kind of two ends of a spectrum that we typically do. But because we were going to do an A/B test, we were able to put one curveball in. And so we added in, are you ready to stop lying? We can help, call. Now, if we weren't doing an A/B test, there's no way in hell that we would lead with, are you ready to stop lying? It's too risky. It's too out there. But because we were testing, we got to put it in the mix. So imagine all the ideas that you've had over the weekend, and it just dogs you all weekend. You think it would be amazing, be a real differentiator. It meets the brand voice. You're really excited about it, and you get in on Monday, and you realize there's no way you could sell it to the boss. There's no way you could just go with it. Well, guess what? Now there's a way to collect some data and find out if you were right. When we did the test, you probably are not surprised that Are You Ready to Stop Lying won. It increased phone calls by 43%. Now, this is a business where we jump up and down for 5, 7, 10% increases are like, yes, 43%. And because we had the data, we were able to measure that. And that's what we ended up going with. So I invite everyone to allow themselves to be more creative by embracing the safety net of data and science.
That's an exciting story. I love big numbers like that when you get those. Jonathan?
Yeah, fascinating, Brian. When I'm talking to clients, or I've been past couple of clients, and they're talking about funnels and page optimization, I get a certain service thrown at me. It's called ClickFunnels. A certain Russell Branson. What do you see the strengths of ClickFunnels, and why do you think clients might at the beginning or at a certain stage be better off looking at WordPress?
WordPress instead of ClickFunnels, or as a complement?
Wherever you want to take it, Professor.
So I think that ClickFunnels does a very important fundamental thing, is it is bringing conversion optimization to the masses. It's making a lot of things simpler. It is really helping to define each of the conversion points that we're dealing with and giving you some tools to optimize those. I'm a fan. Now, I have not used ClickFunnels in my business, and we haven't done any optimization on ClickFunnels. Generally, people using ClickFunnels don't need the full WordPress full court WordPress team that we bring to the table. I hope that answers your question. I think it's a great thing. If that's where you start, that's where you start. And you're going to you're going to be doing science. They won't call it that. And you're going to start getting up the learning curve on how you isolate specific ideas, collect data on them, test them. So I'm a fan.
Well, I think it's a really fantastic answer, Brian, because it really has put this whole subject into clients' real consciousness and helped them with their vocabulary, so they actually know it's a real issue, don't they? Because a lot of the time, you know, half the battle is training somebody that there is a problem and giving the vocabulary to express it.
That is it. So the words are powerful. We know, number one, that words are powerful for teaching, for motivating. We also know that of all the ideas we come up with for optimizing a landing page or a website, we always start with finding the right words, because the words and their component images are the most. If we don't get those right, then we're going to have a really hard time optimizing the site with layout or button color or whatever else you might come up with. So yes, they're helping to give word and voice to the space. The story I like to tell is, at some point someone looked at the stars and introduced the concept of a constellation, a group of stars that created a picture, soon became the gods and everything. But someone introduced that word, constellation. I'm sure it was different in Greek or caveman, but the power of that, turning the sky, a bunch of white dots, into something mysterious, from something mysterious to something that you could tell stories around. That's what they're doing, and that's what we should be doing in our content.
So if you've got somebody that sorted their on-site SEO, sorted out the way Google's indexing the site and all the problems that build up with a site, anybody that says to me that their site hasn't got index problems or fundamental problems that need to be cleaning up, I think they're deluding themselves. After they've got that kind of on-site problem fixing stage, and then they're going on to look at their content and what we've been discussing. Hey, this might be a bit difficult, but I've got to ask it, Brian. Is there a couple areas where on their journey that they should start with about getting their site to a slightly higher level?
Yes. Treat every one of your blog content pages as a landing page. And a landing page has two jobs. Keep the promise made in the ad, the social media post, the link that was placed in the search optimization, an email that you send where there's a link. Keep the promise made by that. And if you don't know what the promise is that's bringing traffic to the page, then you're not building a landing page. Fortunately, for a content page, we know what the promise was. Come and see this content. Come read this content. Come watch this video, whatever format we're using. So a blog content page naturally keeps the promise. So first job taken care of. The second job is to bring the visitor to choice. Not the choice to read or not, although that's one that your headline, subheadline, and opening paragraph and subheads has to do. That's good writing. That's good engaging writing. Let them know that there's a choice, that they can start a conversation with your business, that this content was created specifically to find folks to start conversations. And that can be done a number of ways. We have weird names for these sorts of things, but we've got what we call a lead top hat, which is an offer or an ad at the top of the content, above the content, or just below the headline. You can do a coffee break, which is an offer inside the content. It can be an ad, or it can be done as like a subheadline. There are sticky shoes, which is something at the bottom after they've read through. The people who've gone to the bottom are the most engaged and most likely to take your offer, and your offer can be sign up for the get the blog in the inbox, or a lead magnet that's relevant to the content. And so there's a number of these concepts. There's the jilted lever, which is what we call an exit intent pop over. When somebody's leaving, it pops up and says, "Hey, did you know?" those sorts of things are what you should be considering doing. And this is bringing the visitor to choice. Say, I didn't invite you here to entertain you. I do hope I entertained you and motivated you, but I really brought you here to start a conversation. And now I'm going to ask you to make a choice. I'm not going to just let you. No choice is not a choice. So they can reject you. You got to be ready for that, or they can embrace you. And the thing is that after you've gotten your SEO down, after you've got your Facebook ad strategy down, it's going to change. The only asset you have control over is your subscriber list, your customer list, the things that you can convert that traffic into. And so if you're building assets for your business, you don't want to do what they call the digital sharecropping. You want to build assets that you own, control, and that are people that you're engaged with, it's your tribe, it's your community.
Yeah, I think I love some of those titles, actually, Brian. You get full marks for creativity with those.
I told you science was fun.
Yeah, you've come with it. But I think the bigger thing is that you clarified something that we've been discussing during the show during 2017, is that so many web professionals, when they're working with clients, the content is almost the last thing that gets discussed or placed on the website, because and it's not down to the web professional solely, because it's not it's not seen as very sexy. The actual look of the website, the size of the button, the moving of a banner by 2 pixels is much more interesting. And so the content tends to be left to the last minute and just slapped on. But that is fundamentally a big mistake, isn't it, Brian?
Well, let me leave you with this. I cannot persuade with design. I can persuade with words. I can persuade with images. I can persuade with audio, like we're doing right now. I cannot persuade with design. Design helps make those other elements more visible and more persuasive. So when we launch a website, we spend most of our time working with colors and how this looks and what goes in the menus, the layout, which stock photo are we going to put on the page, heaven forbid. That's where most of the budget goes, to the designers, the graphic designers. They can't persuade. And they're going to be really bad at driving people to the right content if you don't already have the content. If you are spending a lot of money and you're getting designs that say lorem ipsum sit dolor, you are going down a wrong path. You are going to have a beautiful website that I'm not going to say it's definite that no one's going to be interested in, but you certainly aren't focusing on the most important elements.
Yeah, I see. I think design is important, Brian, to a certain extent, as a kind of fix and finish, consistency.
It's important for credibility. It's important for authority. I don't, and user interface. Those designers do things that I don't know how to do. They know how to use color and font and size and white space and negative space and positioning on the page. That I admire what they do. So I don't want to discount what they're doing. Their role is they're put in a position where what they do makes it harder for them to do a good job because they don't have the content yet. And I think it does them a disservice.
Right, I think we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Brian's agreed to stay with us, folks, and discuss more of this fascinating topic for about 15 minutes, which you'll be able to find on the website, the video, with a full set of show notes and a transcription of the interview as well, plus with all the leading links to the products and services that we've discussed through this fascinating conversation. I'm going to let my co-host and myself and our guests give you details how you can find more about them. So, Kim, how can people find out more about you?
You can find me at kimshivler.com. That's all the different programs that I have. And Brian, when you tell us about yourself, make sure you tell us about the upcoming course for people who want to dig deeper into what you shared with us today that's been so valuable.
Yes, Brian, tell us how you can be found and especially about this course.
Yeah, so the 6-week course in which we are going to turn you into a scientist and make you really comfortable with all of these moving parts is at conversionlive.com. And if you want to come and check out our blog and some of the things that we're doing to turn our landing pages, our content pages into landing pages, I welcome you to come visit. There's a free mini course on the site at ConversionSciences.com. You may want to go through that, and that's a collection of 9 articles that will begin to get you up to speed on the state of the art in conversion optimization.
Sounds great. I've got every confidence in the wizard Brian turning you into after you've gone to the optimization college, you'll be turned into a little miniature wizard. If you want to find out more
conversion warts.
Yeah, if you want to find out more about me, folks, it's quite easy. Go to the WP-Tonic page and you'll be able to find out more about me and Kim. And also go to my Twitter at Jonathan Denwood, or join our Facebook group or page, and we're going to be putting more stuff on there in the coming weeks. And if you're feeling very generous, leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps the show. We've had a couple of good ones. We've had a negative one. I'm going to read out the negative one next week because it made me laugh. All feedback is most welcome, and we'll be reading out some of the new reviews during the next couple of weeks, and laughing. So it's been a great interview. Go to the webpage, like I say, and you'll be able to watch and listen to some more of this conversation. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Right. I think it's just, when it, like most really important things, it's that first step on the road, Brian, because there just seems to be so much to do, doesn't there? I'm still grasping about, but I think you're advised that each page in reality is a landing page.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a fantastic metaphor you were using there, because when you really think about it, it is, isn't it?
Well, it is if you want to build assets for your business. Yeah. If you just want to entertain, if you're selling advertising, arguably even advertising, we've optimized ads to increase click rates. So if you're just entertaining for your own entertainment, then that's the only scenario I can think of. The other scenario is, so there is a site called a brochure site, and all its job is to do is to make you credible. And it's usually used after a salesperson has been in contact with someone. They can send them to the website to support the sale.
The other thing that was occurring to me is, have you observed the case studies and the studies I've delved into, is that, obviously a client, a possible purchaser or whatever, it's probably not the right time, but if they keep coming back to the website, or they keep coming back to the brand, as I would put it, can you observe through their journey of a website how long they stay on it, the different sections where there's a moment where they are probably at their best to purchase something?
Well, the answer is no and yes. So the answer is no, you can't, but you can use those signals to come up with, what do we call it, scientists? A hypothesis. So if you say that somebody has come to the site 4 times, and the last 2 times they added things to the cart but then didn't check out, your hypothesis could be that they're ready to buy, but they're missing a piece of information. And so you can act on that. And if, that's a sample size of 1. If you see a group of people, a cohort of people, for instance, a certain number of people that came from a particular ad campaign behaving that way, then you start to say, well, there's a lot of people doing this. I have a larger sample size. This makes me more confident that there is a problem. Then you can start to turn that hypothesis turn that into hypotheses. So we need to show them shipping sooner. We need to let them know that there's free shipping bolder so that they don't go into the cart just to find out what the shipping is. Things like that come to mind. We need to put more trust symbols in the checkout process so they know we're not going to lose their credit card like Equifax and Target and all the other yahoos out there that are just, that's for another show. So I want to make sure that I covered that. I got.
No, you're doing fantastic. As you were speaking, I was thinking of my experiences with clients, because you've had ones that really didn't want to produce anything, and then I've had other clients that literally wanted War and Peace on their website. They wanted, sales kind of orientated content that went on for about 3,000 words, and you had to scroll and scroll and scroll. And so I think what you're talking in a way is imbalance driven by just guessing, not really knowing, because doing no testing, no outside view of your client or your possible clients about what they want. And that's why doing these things that we've discussed in the podcast part of the show are so important, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, well, let's take your example of what you're talking about is what we see a lot. We call it weeing on yourself. You're talking about yourself, your company, and how awesome you are, and we are the leader, and we and us. And I would say to a marketer, go ahead and let that be launched. I know that the powers that be want to sound professional, and then use a tool like Hotjar or Crazy Egg to find out how far people are scrolling on that page. You're collecting a little bit of data that's supporting the hypothesis, which is that people want all of that. And if the majority of people are scrolling all the way to the bottom, you're doing great. Maybe that just means you need to put some calls to action in there, give them an opportunity to make a choice. But if you find that people are like, reading a paragraph and then skipping the rest, then you've got some data that you can take back and say, why don't we do something different here? I often tease myself that I'm not a brand marketer. We call our most important tool a ROI prioritized hypothesis list. We didn't give it a flashy name like.
That's not so exciting as some of the other names you've been using today, Brian. You need maybe call it the wizard list or the
maybe
like
something like that.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah.
But the truth is, there's no better brand experience than finding what you're looking for, finding the information you're looking for, the product you're looking for, the moment of escape that you're looking for, whatever you're looking for. There is no better brand experience than that. And all of the logos and the treatments and the guidelines will give you consistency, but they will all be brought to their knees by a bad experience. And conversion optimization is specifically designed. It's specifically a branding and imaging tool in that's what it's designed to do.
You got a couple of questions, Kim, to wrap up the show with?
I do, and they came from some of the recent answers. One of the things, Brian, when you talked about the where to put your ads, the coffee break, the sticky shoes, etc., what I did not hear is what I see people do a lot, and that's just throw an opt-in into the sidebar.
Yeah, we call that a sidecar. And it is, the problem is that there's banner blindness, what we call banner blindness, because ad banners go on that. And we've gotten very good at ignoring that because we want to read this awesome content. And our brains are like, I already know what's over there. I don't need to look over there. So if that's all you're doing, that's better than not having something over there. But bring something into the content and then make your offers similar to the content. To tell you the truth, we've, the top 10 list, take that blog post, drop it into a PDF, delete the 10th one, so there are only 9, and the last thing they see is, if you want to see all 10, give me your email address, and you get the PDF that has all 10 of them. You're using the same content in a different context. For those people that find it so valuable that they got to find that 10th thing, they're probably someone that you want to start a conversation with. Be respectful and give them opportunities to opt out if, in fact, they don't want a conversation with you, and you're building an asset for your business.
Nice. That is something I've been meaning to do, is the different opt-ins for different pieces of content. That's actually on my 2018 list, and I actually had to kind of change mail providers to be able to do that well.
Yeah. It takes work. It takes more work to do that, but those are the highest converting lead magnets that we have.
Excellent.
Take the time to do that.
Now, at WP-Tonic, we talk a lot about learning management systems, online courses, membership sites as some of our core pieces. Is selling anything going to be the same? I mean, if it's a shopping cart and an e-commerce versus an online course, is there anything you can think of that would be very specific to e-learning or membership as far as really bringing people into your content and making that conversion?
So a couple of things. Number one, there's the hardest lesson that we learned when I started doing this in 2007. I wasn't doing A/B testing. I was doing persona development and using that to develop a list of hypotheses, putting them into this list, and then using research to prioritize that. So most of my recommendations were best practices from experience that I had, because I keep up with the literature and the research. I knew what I thought was going to be the best ideas for what the button should say, how the page should be laid out, et cetera, et cetera. And it turns out when we started A/B testing, if I put together a list, I was wrong on half of it. Mm-hmm. So I think you want to step away from the best practices. Your designer will bring the best practices for visibility and layout and things like that. Let them do that, but don't give them all the money. and start thinking about what's specifically is important to your audience. So you mentioned training, and this is something that is near and dear to my heart right now, because this is the first time we've offered training courses. Teaching and learning is a very personal, I think it's very, very personal. It is, most of our sales process is selling to someone who's buying for their business. Now, a lot of our customers are business owners, and so they have hopes and dreams wrapped up in our ability to find another 20% revenue for them this year or over the next 6 months. But for the most part, we're dealing with marketers who are spending somebody else's money, and their biggest fear is I don't want to make the wrong choice. When you start talking about training, you're talking about giving them skills that will further their careers, giving them tools that will make them successful. This is where the promotions and the increases in pay come from, but also just the satisfaction, as I said earlier, of being able to be more creative, of being able to go toe-to-toe with an executive who in the past has said, no, I want it done this way, when you can stand there and say, well, we tried that, and here's the results. Or we tested these 3, and while you like that one performed the worst. Really, now, which one of these do you want to go with? And it returns a sense of power, it returns a sense of creativity, and that's very personal. So I see what I'm doing as building a tribe, a bunch of like-minded people who are going to come together and help each other become the marketers they want to be, and produce the kind of campaigns that got us into the damn business. We're looking at Think Differently campaigns, and Dove Real Beauty, and Dollar Shave Club, and Old Spice. Things that we said, damn it, that's the kind of motivational, entertaining, and successful campaign I wanted to develop, and we just don't get the opportunity to do that because we're all afraid. So I think there's a distinction in that. It's a more personal sale. It is more of what I'm doing is video so that people can get that I'm passionate about this. And it's more personal writing and things like that.
I think those are great tips for people. And yeah, it's easy sometimes to go with best practices because we're told this, and it's an easy easy way to fall back on, right? Oh, I just have to do those 4 things. We don't have to think anymore. We just do those 4 things. So
and it's fine to do it as long as you do it and then go back and look and see, did that actually help? I mean, we use best practices to populate our hypothesis list, but we don't put anything on the website to have some data that says it's probably going to help.
Excellent. Jonathan, I don't know about you. I've learned a whole lot today, and I certainly know that I have some issues on my landing pages that I will have to go dig into here as we launch 2018.
We all do. As long as you're making steps forward, don't be self-conscious, and you'll see some things on our site too. We could be doing better.
Just to say, Brian, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I think what we've achieved in the interview and this bonus content, Brian, is that we've really put some of the key problems and maybe solutions to our listeners and viewers, and given them ideas and resources that might help them on their educational path, and give them some solutions as well, Brian.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to, I think folks that are on WordPress are unique. They're do-it-yourselfers. They are people who are actively involved in marketing, and I'm excited about that, because I think those are the people that are going to be the vanguard of the scientists of the future.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brian, and folks, and thank you for watching our bonus content, and we'll see you next week, folks. Bye.